Worse in the East, episode 8 of Netflix's One Piece adaptation. So this is it. This is the final episode of the first season. And we get the big final showdown between Luffy and Arlong, as well as the confrontation between Luffy and Garp. So I mentioned in the last episode how I thought Arlong came across as more villainous because we didn't really get to see the whole like chaining up Nami and stuff when she was a kid. We get that here though. We actually start off with the flashback with Nami getting the Arlong tattoo put on her, and then she's being forced to draw maps until her fingers bleed, and she's chained up the entire time. So I'm glad they showed that. And I know it sounds kind of weird. Oh yeah, Pirate's glad that they showed a scene of a child being chained up and forced to draw maps until their fingers bleed. Well, I'm glad that they like kept this part from the manga, and it really shows how villainous like Arlong was. I thought they kind of bypassed a little bit of that in the previous episode, so I'm glad that they actually showed that here. But yeah, we cut to the present day where the Straw Hat crew show up at Coco Village, and the entire place is burned down, which just kind of makes me wonder why they didn't do anything the previous night. Because the crew, the last episode ended with the crew in the distance watching as the village is being attacked, and then they show up and it's daytime. So I guess they just didn't do anything the entire night. Or maybe they came to the village, but by the time they got there, it was too late. I don't know. I just thought this was kind of, maybe could have been done a little bit better. But village is burned down. Nami says that this was basically a message to Nami, as well as to the villagers. And that's when Nojiko and the villagers show up, and they're going to fight Arlong. And Nami says, "You're going to be killed." And the villagers basically tell Nami, like, hey, Nojiko told us about what you did, and we are never going to be free. So better to fight for our freedom than to die as, a slave. And Nami says, no, this isn't your fight, this is my fight. I'm kind of like, well, not really, Nami. Like, it's pretty much everybody's fight, because you're not the only one that Arlong kind of tormented. Yeah, he kind of went a little bit extra on you, but then again, that's because in the series, you went out of your way to join his crew, whereas in the manga, you were kidnapped against your will. So you kind of put yourself in a bad situation in this series. But yeah, I mean, the villagers were terrorized for decades by this guy. So it's everybody's fight. But no, Nami's like, no, it's my fight. Don't do this. And so the villagers don't join in the fight. I thought that was kind of, I don't know. I would have liked if they did join. They do join in the manga. In the manga, the villagers participate in the fight. And I thought this could have been like an interesting setup, where the villagers help the Straw Hat crew fight for their freedom. But instead they don't. So Zoro, Nami, Sanji, Usopp, and Luffy decide to go to Arlong Park. They basically confront Arlong. They shoot a bunch of smoke screen, and then they arrive, and it turns into a battle where Nami and Luffy go into the map room, and because I guess they're going in there to get the Grand Line map. It's kind of weird because Luffy asks Nami, like, where would Arlong be? And she says, the map room. So I guess they're going into the map room to confront Arlong. But when they show up, Arlong is not there. And instead we have a moment where Luffy sees the chains and stuff, and Nami explains that she was able to stop wearing them on her 12th birthday because that was like Arlong's birthday present to her, was that she no longer had to be chained, which of course infuriates Luffy. But Nami's like, okay, I got the Grand Line map, let's go. So did you go there for the map, or did you go there to confront Arlong? Meanwhile, outside, Sanji and Zoro start fighting Arlong's crew, and we have one of them that goes to chase after Usopp. Usopp shoots Chu in the face, and then Chu chases after him and chases him into the woods. So Usopp spends the entire fight just running and trying to fight one dude. And I mean, at least he wins. He basically fakes his death, and as Chu is walking away, Usopp shows up, and he has a fire pellet that he made. Basically, it explodes into flames. It's like an ignition bomb in a sense. And Chu's like, I'm a fishman. Fishmen don't burn. And Usopp's like, no, but alcohol does. And so he shoots the alcohol in Chu's hand, which explodes and kills Chu. Chu burns. And I was like, all right, it's kind of brutal. Meanwhile, we get an actual cool fight scene. I didn't really care too much for Usopp's whole scene with Chew. I did like, the whole shooting the alcohol bottle to blow up Chew. I thought that was kind of cool. In the manga, I think is he more vicious in the manga? I'm trying to struggle like how he defeats Chew in the manga. I think he douses him with alcohol rather than Chew actually carrying a bottle. I think Usopp actually goes out of his way to douse Chew with alcohol and then burns him, which is pretty savage. But yeah, we get a cool fight scene with Zoro and Sanji where they're just beating up on these fishermen and like trading banter with each other. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Gimli and Legolas from Lord of the Rings, the movie, in the second movie, where they're like trading barbs and stuff as they're fighting. That's basically kind of like what's going on here, only they're not counting how many fishermen they're destroying. And it's kind of brutal. I mean, Sanji is like just punching and kicking these fishermen. I'm assuming knocking them unconscious. Zoro's slicing the crap out of them. Like he's like actually killing them. He's like slicing their necks, their throats, their stomachs. We got like a cool scene where he does like a wall run as he slices fishermen, and he's like stabbing them and stuff. So yeah, Zoro's is basically massacring these guys while Sanji's going around knocking them out, I'm assuming. Unless Sanji's like breaking necks or something. Cool fight scene. Until eventually all that's left is Kurubi, I guess the second mate of Arlong, and he's going to use Fishman Karate on the group. And he's doing a pretty good job of beating up both Sanji and Zoro. But eventually they're like trying to team up. It's not really working. But then eventually Sanji starts using his blackleg style, and I think he's saying French dishes as he's saying something I'm gonna think it's French, could be Italian, but I'm assuming it's French, as he's kicking the crap out of Kurubi until eventually he beats him. Meanwhile, in the map room, Arlong eventually shows up, and he's kind of like taunting Nami and stuff, and talking about fishmen being persecuted, and the persecution ends here, and he's going to lead the fishmen to a grand revolution and kill all the humans, and all the humans will understand the pain of the fishmen. We get this like pretty cool scene where Arlong uses his like sawtooth sword and he places it on Luffy's neck, and he's basically saying how he used Nami. How Arlong used Nami to create all these maps until eventually he's going to have like a map of the world. He's going to be able to use them to overtake all the humans. And he asks Luffy, like, do you think you could have put her to better use? And that pisses off Luffy, and he like grabs Arlong's sword. And even though it's like cutting into his hand, he just like squeezes it until it breaks, and basically says that Nami is a person, she's not to be used. I was like, okay, that's kind of a cool badass Luffy moment there. And then he tells Nami to leave, and we get a showdown. And the showdown is pretty much Luffy trying to use his gum powers, and he's getting a couple hits in. Like there's one moment where he punches Arlong so hard in the teeth that he knocks some teeth loose, and so Arlong basically rips out all the broken teeth, and then like new fresh teeth show up to kind of show Luffy like it doesn't matter how much you hit me or beat me, like you're not going to win in a sense. You know, fishermen are superior than humans. Luffy starts trying to use more of his gum powers, but it's not really working. And that's when we get a moment where Arlong is taunting Luffy about how Nami needs him. And Luffy is like, Nami doesn't need you, you need Nami. And he throws a punch that misses Arlong and hits a pillar behind Arlong. And Arlong's laughing, he's like, there's no way you can beat me. And Luffy says, you're right, I can't beat you, but I can destroy everything that you've built. And that's when he starts throwing out punches. And he's not hitting Arlong, he's hitting the pillars. And that's when Arlong realizes that Luffy is not going for Arlong, he's going for the pillars that are supporting Arlong Park. And he tries to stop Luffy, but Luffy just goes around, starts punching and kicking, ripping out the pillars. And then eventually he has this pretty cool moment where he kicks his feet up, and his feet stretches, and it breaks through all, like the ceilings up into the sky. And then it's the Gum Battle Axe, where he brings his leg down in an axe kick. And as he's bringing it down, he's destroying the building that they're in, until eventually his leg comes down, hits Arlong, smashes him through the floor, and then his leg keeps stretching as it pushes Arlong through multiple floors until it hits the bottom. And Arlong is defeated, The pillars are destroyed. Half the building is destroyed. It just starts crumbling down. And that's when Usopp shows up. Usopp shows up to help out Sanji and Zoro, only to discover that all the fishmen are destroyed. And Nami arrives, and she rushes over and she hugs Usopp and Zoro. And they ask, like, where's Luffy? She says he's fighting Arlong inside the building. And that's when the building collapses. And of course, everyone's upset because they think Luffy's dead. And of course, he's not. He comes out of the collapsed building. Everybody's excited. And Arlong and his crew is defeated. And this happens like 20 minutes into the episode. So I was kind of like, oh, that's it? That was kind of fast. Like, what are we going to do for the other like 30 minutes of this episode? Because we're like a third of the way in and the big bad villain, the big bad Arlong, is destroyed. So is he going to like come out of the rubble and continue his fight with Luffy? Like, what's happening here? But nope, he's destroyed. We cut back to Coco Village where everybody's celebrating. Everybody is happy. Usopp is like regaling tales of his bravery and heroism and how he single-handedly defeated the Fishmen and Arlong. Sanji is like feeding the entire village and stuff. And the celebration gets interrupted by Garp showing up. And they basically say that Luffy's under arrest because he's responsible for the destruction of Coco Village. And I thought this was going to be a moment where the village was going to like stand up for the crew. And Garp would see that, Luffy isn't your typical pirate going around destroying villages and stuff, but he's actually like a heroic pirate, and that could like change his mind. No, we get something completely different. But I will say that I am kind of disappointed that the village didn't do anything, because you would think, like I said, in the manga, the villagers actually help in the fight against the fishmen. They don't do that here because Nami says not to, and for some reason they follow her orders. But I would think that at least you would stand up for the people that just saved you. Like Luffy and the Straw Hat crew just saved the village. They destroyed Arlong and his crew. The village is now free after decades of slavery. And now they're being falsely accused of destroying the village. You would think at least one of the villagers would be like, hey, you're wrong. He helped us. He's the one that saved us. But no, the villagers don't say anything. In fact, the people that do say something are Koby and Helmeppo. Koby and Helmeppo are the ones that disobey Garp's order and say, we're not going to do that. Like, we're not going to arrest the crew because Luffy's not that kind of person. So I'm glad to see that happen. Like, especially Helmeppo. I'm glad to see like Helmeppo like is growing as a character. Like, he starts off as like this like whiny little douchebag, and now he's kind of like coming into his own. And it's good to see Koby come across as like, he's like super mousy the entire season. Now he's like growing a spine and standing up to his superiors. But I would have liked if the villagers also kind of helped, like at least say something instead of just keeping quiet. But no. So Garp decides to have a conversation with Luffy, and I'm not going to like go into the details of it, but basically Garp is upset that Luffy became a pirate, that he trained him to be a marine. He's like questioning Luffy in his dream. It leads to like a fight. And during the fight, Luffy's trying to say that, he was a pirate. He was always a pirate. He was born a pirate. Like, he will never become a marine and stuff. This is his dream. And Garp is trying to talk him out of the dream, out of becoming, the king of pirates. And Luffy refuses. And Luffy's like completely destroyed in this fight. Like, he loses. He's defeated. But he refuses to give up on his dream. And Garp is like, all right. And he turns to the Marines. He's like, well, what are you guys standing there for? Arlong and his men are still around. Go arrest them. So everybody starts leaving. That's when Luffy realizes like that Garp isn't there to arrest him. And he's like, you were testing me? And Garp's like, yeah, I wanted to make sure that if this was something that you were going to do, if you were going to go to the Grand Line, if you were going to search for the One Piece, if you're going to try to become the King of Pirates, that this isn't just some like fancy little dream that kids have and stuff, that this was something that you were really determined to do, because what you're about to do is dangerous. You're on your own now. He even tells Luffy, like, you're on your own now. Like, I can't help you and stuff. Like, you're gonna have a bounty on your head. Like, things are gonna be rough from here on out. So I had to make sure that this is what you really wanted. And now that he knows for sure that it is, he basically gives Luffy like his, all right, go for it, kid. And he leaves. And I was like, all right, that's actually a pretty cool moment. Like, I thought, like, I understood Garp's like intentions was never really to like he didn't want to kill Luffy or anything like that. He wants to stop Luffy because the life that Luffy wants to live is super dangerous, and he doesn't want that for his grandson. So I kind of understood that. But I like the fact that in the end, he doesn't force his grandson to give up on his dream. He just wants to make sure that his grandson really wants this dream. Like he's really that determined. And when he realizes that he is, he's like, all right, like he gives him his blessing, but warns him like things are going to be tough. You're on your own. Be careful. And Luffy's like, I'm not on my own, because he has his, I have my crew with me. And the next day, Nami is saying her goodbyes to her adopted mother, and Majiko shows up and they have a sisterly farewell. We even see that Nami's tattoo has now been changed, and I guess the symbol's supposed to be for her adopted mother. I think in the manga it's actually Belmary's and the village like chief that we saw in previous episodes with the scars on his face. I think she gets like a tattoo that represents both of them, but he didn't really play that big of a part in the series, so I guess it's just a tattoo to represent her mother. She erases the stigma of Arlong from her arm. They say their goodbyes. Meanwhile, Luffy is chilling out when Koby shows up. Luffy's like, are you here to arrest me or anything? And Koby's like, no, I'm just here to give you this. And it is a wanted poster. Luffy's now an official pirate. Like, you're not an official pirate until you get a wanted poster, until you get a bounty on you. And Luffy realizes he has a bounty on him, and he gets super excited. He starts cheering. And then we get this like cool montage where we see like all the people in Luffy's life discovering that Luffy has made it as a pirate. So like we see I forgot her name, the barmaid in the village that Luffy grew up, who kind of took care of him. She sees the wanted poster. And then Kaya sees the wanted poster, and she notices that Usopp, like the back of his head, is on the corner. So she's like, she's happy for Usopp. And we see Buggy. Buggy sees the wanted poster, and he starts laughing. And he's like, I'm gonna go after you. Like, I'm gonna collect that bounty. And then Alvida is like, if you don't, I will. And this is supposed to be like the setup for their partnership, which actually happens in the manga. Only it doesn't happen this early. But yeah, Alvida teams up with Buggy. Like they form their own crew. I am kind of interested to see what they do with Alvida, because here Alvida looks the same. And for anyone who hasn't read the manga or watched the anime, you'd be wondering, Pirate, what are you talking about? Well, here's the thing. I'm wondering if Netflix is actually going to pull it off, because if they do, they're probably going to get a lot of hate from the Twitter people, the Twitter mob. In the manga, Alvida, as you all know, she's ugly and fat and stuff, but she eats this fruit. I forget what the hell it was called. I think it's like the slip fruit. But anyways, what this fruit does is it makes her thin and beautiful. So yeah, when Buggy sees her in the manga, she has already eaten the fruit, and she's like thin and beautiful. So I'm wondering, are you gonna do that here? Are you gonna have to get a new actress? Are you gonna force the actress to go like on a huge workout routine and slim her down? Like, or are you just gonna completely ignore that? So yeah, I'm kind of interested to see what they're gonna do there. That's going to be pretty fun to see, especially if they do decide to stay faithful to the manga and slim her down. There's going to be a huge mob on social media going after Netflix for that. But, I mean, it would be faithful to the manga. So, we see Alvida and Buggy and basically the beginnings of their partnership. And we see Mihawk. He's like walking on the beach, and he comes across Shanks and Shanks' crew. And he hands over the wanted poster to Shanks, and Shanks looks at it and he gets super excited. Like, he's like, Luffy did it. Luffy's officially a pirate now. And he invites Mihawk to join them for a round of drinks. And Mihawk's like, all right, I guess one drink wouldn't be too bad. I was like, all right, that was kind of cool. Like, I like that little moment. But yeah, the crew sets out on the Going Merry. Luffy has made a little something on the ship for Nami. Basically, he got 3 tangerine trees, and he has them in the back behind the wheel of the ship, where Nami's mostly going to spend her time. And so she has her own tangerine garden. Basically, like, wherever you go, a little part of home is going to be with you. And then Nami's like, well, thank you. We also made something for you. And she tells Usopp to set down the sail, and they do. And it's the Straw Hat Jolly Roger. And of course, Luffy gets super happy and excited about that. And that's when he notices Sanji bringing over a barrel, and Luffy calls everybody over, and they all basically share their dreams. So Sanji's like, I'm going to find the all blue, and then he puts his foot on the barrel. Luffy, I'm going to become the king of pirates. He puts his foot on the barrel. Zoro, I'm going to become the world's greatest swordsman. Foot on the barrel. Nami, I'm going to map out the entire world. Foot on the barrel. And then Usopp's like trying to think, because Usopp never really kind of had a dream at this point in time. So he's kind of thinking about what he's going to do. So he has like a flashback to his mom on her deathbed. And then he's like, I'm going to become the greatest warrior of the seas. And he puts his foot on the barrel. And there you go. There's the Straw Hat crew. Everyone's happy. Everyone's super excited as they set sail for the Grand Line. Meanwhile, back with the Marines, Koby and Helmeppo are there to see Garp to receive their punishment for disobeying Garp's orders. And Garp pretty much tells, following orders doesn't make you a good Marine. Following your code is what makes you a good Marine. And you followed your code. Yeah, basically, they're like, so you're not going to punish us? And Garp's like, not exactly. I've heard that my training is punishment enough. And he basically offers to train the two of them. And they both agree. Koby, because Koby wants to be able to hold his own against Luffy. And Helmeppo, because Helmeppo wants to prove to Zoro that Zoro isn't going to be the world's greatest swordsman. That, like, Helmeppo wants to prove that he can be a great swordsman too. And go toe-to-toe against Zoro. And we even have like a nice moment where Helmeppo refers to Koby as his friend. So, yeah, well, it started off as kind of an antagonistic relationship has now developed into a friendship. And the two of them agreed to take Garp up on his offer for training. And Garp's like, maybe the old chef was right. Maybe it is your turn. And he's looking at the wanted poster of Luffy. And we cut to our final little teaser, which is we see the back of a Marine holding two cigars. And he's looking at Luffy's bounty poster. And he burns it with one of his cigars. And that's how it ends. And anyone who doesn't know, this is Smoker. And Smoker is going to play a very, very huge role in the next season, I'm assuming. Because he plays a very huge role in the manga. Yeah, if you thought Garp was tough, well, we'll wait until you meet Smoker. So yeah, there you go. There's the final episode. Worst in the East. You know what? I liked it. I thought it was good. I was a little bit worried 20 minutes into this episode when I was like, all right, so Arlong is defeated. What are we going to do with the next half hour? But they did a pretty good job. They did a good job of wrapping up the Arlong arc, wrapping up the whole Garp situation. Like I liked the confrontation between Garp and Luffy. And I liked Garp basically giving his blessing to Luffy. He just wanted to be sure that, this kid was determined to live out this dream. Like he already knew he was, but he wanted to really make sure that Luffy was completely serious about this. And once Luffy, proves that he is, then Garp kind of gives his blessing. I was like, all right, that was kind of nice. That was kind of sweet. And I especially loved the little montage of everybody seeing Luffy's wanted poster and just their reaction of realizing that this kid is, he's made it. He's now a pirate. Yeah, the introduction of Smoker. I wonder who they got for the actor, because we don't actually see Smoker's face or anything. We just see like the back of his head and stuff. So I'm wondering who it's going to be. I'm hoping they got a good actor to nail down that role, because that's going to be pretty interesting. But yeah, I thought this episode was really good. I really liked the fight scene with Arlong's crew, especially Zoro and Sanji's part. I even think Luffy's fight scene with Arlong was pretty good, especially like when Luffy realized that he can't beat Arlong. I like how he changes up his strategy. He's like, well, I might not be able to destroy you, but I can destroy everything you built. So that was cool. Yeah, the fight with Zoro, just Zoro rushing around like a madman, slashing everybody and stabbing everybody. I was like, all right, simmer down now a little bit, Zoro. But yeah, dude's just going psycho, killing everyone with his sword. I was like, all right, that's sweet. Sanji beating up everyone, the playful banter between the two of them. Yeah, this touch of Luffy making the garden for Nami, and Nami revealing the Jolly Roger. Everything there was good. I will say so I have complained about previous episodes in the past about changing stuff from the manga. There was one big thing that they changed here. I don't know if they really, I want to say it was big, but I think it could be kind of big. That I'm actually glad that they dropped. And that's in the manga, when Nami is leaving with the Straw Hat crew, when she's leaving Kokoyoshi Village, she robs everybody. So, yeah, she basically is a thief at heart. Like, it's not just she became a thief so that she could steal for the, for the village. Even when the village is saved, she steals from the village as she's leaving. And they don't do that here. And I'm like, you know what? I think that change was for the better. I don't know, because it kind of portrays Nami as kind of a bitch. Like, here's a village that, you fought so long for, but I mean, they went through hell under Arlong's rule. They're poor. They have nothing left. And now as you're leaving, after they've, celebrated their freedom and are giving you a grand goodbye, you rob from them. So, yeah, they don't do that here in the Netflix series. And I was like, all right, that's good. I kind of like that. Keep Nami less of a bitch to her village. That was nice. I thought this was pretty good. Overall, I really enjoyed the hell out of this series. I would say, like, the only episode I don't even want to say I didn't care for, because I really liked it as well. It was just the weakest episode was the previous episode, Nami's origin story. I don't want to say I hated it. I liked it, but that was like the weakest episode. And even then, I'd give it like a 7.5 out of 10. So even the series' weakest episode was still really good, which should tell you like just how much I enjoyed the hell out of this series. And I was not expecting that at all. I came into this thinking this is going to be garbage. When I first heard of a One Piece Netflix adaptation, I said this before in previous videos, I was basically face palming and shaking my head like, oh god, they're going to ruin this just like they ruined Cowboy Bebop. Especially when it came out that like you had the writer comparing Luffy to Kamala Harris. I was like, oh, this is going to be a shit show. But no, it turned out to be really good. And I think that's because, like I mentioned before, Japan had a very big hand in what they were allowing Netflix to do. Oda was very strict on what you can and can't do, and how you have to stay faithful to the vision, and here's things you could do, here's things you can't do. And so because of that, you got a series that made changes and stuff, but still felt very faithful to the vision. I like to compare this to what Peter Jackson did with Lord of the Rings. Now, I'm not saying this series is as good as the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm just saying that Peter Jackson had to make changes. And despite those changes, it still became a series that everybody loved because it remained faithful to the vision. It wasn't like what Amazon did to Rings of Power, where they just made their own shit up and stuff. Even though Lord of the Rings had to make changes, it stayed very faithful and as faithful to the vision of Tolkien's story as they could. And I feel like that's basically what One Piece did here. A lot of it was because the writers had their arms tied behind their backs and they were forced to, but good. Because they were forced to stay faithful to the vision of the original series. And so we get a series that everybody loves. And it was awesome. It was great. I loved it. Huge surprise to me. Probably the best series that I've watched this entire year. Yeah, I can't recommend this enough. Go check it out. It's amazing. I'm still blown away by how great this is. Characters are fantastic. They really nailed down the roles for the actors and actresses that they picked. I love just the fact that they embraced the kind of goofy, over-the-topness of the manga. They don't like go out of their way to like explain everything. Like, for example, in this episode, you had a Marine Nezumi who has like whiskers and cat ears on his hat. But they don't go out of their way to point it out. It's just there. That's just who he is because that's how he's like in the manga. But you don't have anyone like, hey, why does this guy have whiskers? Hey, funny cat ears on your hat. Haha. Like, they don't do the whole like Marvel thing where we're going to point out how goofy someone looks. It's just there. That's just how they look. And they do that with other stuff. Like, you have snails used as phones and stuff. Talking snails. But we're not going to explain why. It's just these snails can be used to communicate long distances. That's just the way this world is. Deal with it. And because everything is just kind of goofy and stuff, it just, I don't know, I really liked it. I like the fact that they just embraced it. They didn't try to like make it more realistic or anything like that. Sometimes you just gotta embrace the goofiness. Yeah, I'm just kind of rambling. This was awesome. I loved it. I love this episode. I love the series. I'm glad to see that they're going to get a second season. Hopefully, the writers and stuff remain as stranglehold for the second season as they did for the first season. Because there's always a worry when it comes to a second season, especially when it comes to like Netflix and stuff. Just adaptations in general. Because a lot of times you'll see things where like they're trying to wrangle in some of the fans by making it seem like, oh, look at this, like we're going to be kind of faithful to your beloved franchise. And then the second season is when they shove in all their political messages and then they like kind of bastardize the series and stuff. Just look at The Witcher. So I'm going to be a little bit wary, but the fact that this season did just an amazing job of kind of keeping all that stuff out, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that the second season is going to be just as good. I guess we'll find out. Fingers crossed, though. But yeah, this was awesome. Go check it out. There you go. Hope that you enjoyed. Hope to see you next time. Take care. Later.